was just thinking about this very important point. Let me draw one conclusion to that. Paul was not in it for the money. Paul was not in it for the fame. Paul totally gave his life a mission in the work of Christ. Paul he met Christ, and Christ had done a miraculous work in his life. Christ has demonstrated his power in him. Christ totally changed his mind and heart. So he said, I count my life as nothing. Because Christ was so precious. There's nothing in life that can compare to what he has found in Christ. Salvation, reconciliation with God, total perfection in the presence of God, totally righteous, total righteousness. He can stand in the presence of God with the merit of Christ, not with his own merit. But he said, my former life, I count these things as important. I'm from a group that I belong to, circumcised, those kind of statuses and positions that he had as a Pharisee and everything like that. But in Christ, he said those things count as nothing. Why? Because these things could not bring him into a right relationship with God. He now understands these things are rubbish. It did not perfect him, but he can find perfection in Christ. So his full confidence is in Christ, not in himself or anything. He totally gave his life for Christ. Christ becomes so precious to him. So he was willing to give up on anything. His life. He gave up on his life. He gave his life. He fulfilled what Jesus said. If anyone wishes to follow me or willing to follow me, let him deny himself. And we see this example in Paul. He gave up his life for the sake of Christ. Now there's a place that God take you. You want to preserve your integrity. You want to protect your integrity. And Paul did this. Even though he said he had the right to receive something for his work as an apostle, but he did not. Because if he did, maybe some people would find this as a stumbling block or a way to criticize Paul. Oh, maybe he was doing it for the money. He was doing this for the money. That's the whole reason. Now, by letting people have this doubt in his ministry, maybe this could have caused issues with his preaching, with his message, but he did not want that. He wants Christ to be known. He wants Christ to be the object, the subject of the message. He wants people to see Christ, not himself. He said in 1 Corinthians, I come with witnesses in meekness. Why? Because he wants people to see he has witness too. So that maybe people would have a greater view of him, of Paul. Paul did not want that. He says, this is not Paul, this is not Apollos. It's about Christ. Do not identify with me. You need to identify with Christ because he's the one that died for you. This is the attitude of a humble heart. humble servant. Paul is that. And by seeing his weaknesses, people can understand why Paul is truly a human being too. Now let me look to Christ as the foundation of everything. So, we should have the same attitude, right? Paul was not in it for the money. He was not in it for the fame. And he said in Acts, some people will come. They will draw crowd to themselves, not to Christ. But they're going to come inside of the church in leading people to themselves. It's going to be about themselves. They want to be the one that they want people to see. Christ and Paul was not there. He wasn't going to let that happen in his life. He gave it all until his death. Paul was a true servant of God. And